I don't know if there's sensitive information on that. Anyway, I'm glad I stopped sharing my screen before we went live. Hi, everybody. Good evening. Good afternoon. Good morning, wherever you're watching, listening.
It's definitely good evening if you're here in the UK.
Yeah, Barry's going to keep a good eye on my internet tonight. Because, once again, look, I'm trying everything in my power to make this thing work.
So tonight is a night of experimentation.
Yes.
Because we think we have... Maybe this is a global issue, the fact that you just got so many people around you who are so active at this time.
Could be.
They're sucked on bandwidth of all natures. Therefore, we got to try it tonight and see what happens.
Yeah. So in the pre-show, Barry, you jump in and you let me know if I'm lagging. In the real show, just wait and pause, and we'll get through it. I'll record my own local copy, and then I will cut out all the silence later for the audio version. At
least if I'm listening to you more so than watching you, then actually it works. It's fine. But it just means I don't get to look at you as much through the show, which is a shame.
Yeah, might not be such a bad thing. Now, everybody else who's watching and where my mouth doesn't match, what I could do is I could just talk like this, and that way, really, you can't really tell when I'm talking and when I'm not because my mouth is hidden. It could work.
That's true. If you make it a bit bigger, then you can't see your entire face. And
oh yeah. Oh wait, hang on. So that'd be like this. Wait.
But then we could both just put photos of ourselves.
Can you even hear me?
We could just put up photos. Yes, it's really tinny, but yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
If you project your voice at the microphone, then
this is me projecting my voice at the microphone.
That's not too bad. It sounds like it's almost like going through that voice synth that you had the other week.
Okay.
Well, that's not necessarily bad. That could work.
Jeez. Sorry, I was pulling up my monitor to see just what this looks like in a live environment. Let's see here. Cool. Story tonight is not one that I would have picked, but it's something that is a story about wearable socks. Socks.
You gotta like some wearable socks. Well, socks that aren't wearable, then that's terrible.
Can we sell you some socks tonight?
We've already had some commentary from Martin Thody on when I shared the show on LinkedIn, and he came back. Well, I've been wearing socks since I can't remember what year he said, so I don't want to insult him. But he's been wearing socks for an awfully long time. I'm like, well done. So
yeah, but what if you could wear socks that could sense your movements? Would you do it?
Well, I would, obviously, because I'm a gadget geek. And anything that you can do to do that sort of thing is clearly good. But actually, in going through this, I guess again we sort of start pulling out some of the issues and stuff. And I think there's issues to deal with. No, and it's one of these things, isn't it, that it's not necessarily just about basics. I mean, for what always inspires me about stories like this, it's never just about the story, is it? Nope. It's about, right, okay, well, what does this unleash? What does this unlock? What just having this, what do we think that where's the next step for technology? So that's why this sort of thing is really cool.
So it's really funny, and I will talk about this at the top of the show, but next week you and I are out, and so in lieu of that, we're going to be dropping a conversation I had with Joe Keebler, who is the chair of the International Symposium on Human Factors in Ergonomics and Healthcare. It's a long title, but the Healthcare Symposium, the one that we've frequently covered in the past, and good friends of the show over here, kind of a subset of HFES. So I had a chance to sit down with him yesterday, and we switched up the format a little bit on our conference coverage, and it's a lot of the same stuff How was the conference?
Yeah.
What was it like? What were some of the key themes? But in addition to that, we also added in sort of this this discussion of where the human factors healthcare field is right now and where it could be. And he and I talking were very much like a, that's why we're human factors people, is because we think of all these like cool technologies coming up, and then we immediately think about what that means for process, policy, procedure, like, all this stuff that needs to be thought about. It was a good discussion, and I'm really excited to drop that one.
Cool. I can't wait. I'll take it with me on holiday.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, you should do that.
Because we're gonna go camping, so I'll have to play it out to the tent.
Yeah, there you go.
And, that's cool. Right, I'm just going through the rest of this, and some of these it came from are quite interesting.
Yeah. So what happened?
I like that one.
What's that?
I like the first one.
Yeah. The last one was interesting because our automation didn't kick in time, and so what happened was the post was deleted before I saw, and I really liked the title. Right. I just felt like we keep it and talk through it.
Yeah, that's it.
That's good.
Yes. Got my one more thing sorted, and yeah, no, it's cool. Better just read the blurb, because you have a habit of dropping me in it when you write it.
Yeah, read over that and make sure it reads okay from your perspective.
Was it last week? I was like, God, no, you've used big words that I don't understand here.
Yeah, there's one in there this week that I'm like, I want to throw that at him and see if he catches it. Can you tell which word it is? You let me know when you find the word.
Oh, wow.
You find it?
I found it, yeah. Right, let's hyphenate that.
Can you give it a stab?
It's piezo resistant. Piezo resistant, sorry, but I need to hyphenate that just to make sure I say it properly.
There you go. Exit job description.
There we go. Yep. So we go there. Oh, I'm ready to sleep though. That's not a good sign, is it?
You know what? There's something in the air, because I have to have one of these really unhealthy things that provide me with energy.
I've been after.
Not sponsored. Let me turn off my camera so that way we make sure it's not sponsored.
Yes. Unless, of course, they do want to sponsor us, then we could have a discussion.
We have a Patreon tier for that. Yes, you're right.
Yes. So, but I spent my most of my week out at Farnborough International Air Show. It was really good. It was America pretty much had a hall to itself with all the different different states and different bits of the aerospace industry all represented. And I got to see lots of machined parts. Very, very little human factors. Bearing in mind, there was at least 4 massive halls, loads of outside stuff. I didn't go into a lot of the sponsored stuff, but yeah, very, very little human factors out there. And in fact, I went to one bit around the space industry. So this is obviously European space, more so than the American side of things, because NASA's got them coming out their ears. But they were like, "Oh, we do all this space stuff, and we're desperate for human factors people." And I'm like, "Well, here I am." So
right here,
yes,
right here.
Yeah. Well, I was like, we'll be following up with you. Give me your business card. So yes, it it's so nice to be back into, like the big sort of conference environment, which would have been really good, except for I met up with one of my old bosses, and which was cool. I haven't seen him for about at least about 10 years, and that was all cool. And I was trying to introduce him to my team because I took my team with me as well. That was all great. Went off and put a message on Facebook that evening saying, "Oh, just great first day. Met up with these people. Blah blah blah." Got a message back from him saying, "Yes, no, it's really really good to see you. We've all just come down with COVID." Like,
yikes!
Right, thanks for that. So sitting there going, right, do we? Don't we? What do we do? We all seem okay. So, but there is a new variant crashing through the UK at the moment. That seems to be taking everybody by storm. So.
Hey, quick comment. It came from. I misread it. I thought they were talking about job candidates, but that's not what they're asking for. They're access to users.
Oh. We'll just delete the word user, and we'll just
okay.
Make it up.
Because I really wanted to approach it from the other perspective.
Well, it's our show. Let's do it.
Okay, we'll do that because, the job market sucks. Not for prospective people, but for people looking to recruit, it sucks.
There you go. I've edited it now. It makes more sense.
Okay, and I've edited it in the description or whatever, so we can just say they edited it later. No one will know. No one will know. It'll be our secret. And everybody watching.
Don't tell anybody else. We take an executive editorial privilege.
Mm-hmm. It's okay. It makes a better show. It's a creative liberty to make a better show, right?
I've changed the username anyway, so it's they'll never know either.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
What'd you change it to? Let's see here. Oh, okay. No. Put it back. I need it. I need the original. I'll just claim I misread it on the show. Let's see here. What is it?
I've done it.
Cache 18K hash.
No. However you're going to pronounce that.
Chirata.
Yeah, that's cool. I do like some of these Reddit usernames, especially when some of the bigger ones come in, and I just sort of laugh at how you're going to pronounce them.
Oh, the ones that always get me are the ones that have like, I don't want to say foul language because I use that language all the time, but language that would flag us as explicit on
yes
on Apple Podcasts or something like that, and get us. Yeah, and get us banned in a million different countries because because we said one word.
They've got to catch us though. It's not like we record. Oh, we are recording. I remember.
Yeah.
What is that? There we go. Oh, I'm not going to do that anymore.
I gotta put in the news title here because I've the last couple weeks I've been doing this on the fly and it's been very stressful.
Oh, you want to talk about stressful? I had my latest version of the podcast go live on Monday, and I've been using this hero post to do the social media posting now. So I was like, I woke up in the morning, so I get that to start pushing out around 6ish. I rolled over, checked my phone, and it was all automated. So it came up, and I was like, "Oh, it's gone live. That's great. That's great." And I was like, "But it hasn't sent out the Apple Podcasts hasn't sent me a little flag saying that's updated." And actually, Podpage hasn't sent its usual thing because I haven't cancelled that. I use that as a bit of a secondary check. That hasn't come up either. What's going on? So I jumped onto Podpage and onto the website. No episode. Like, that's not clever. What's going on?
Uh-oh.
Because it was the one I was doing with as a premiere on YouTube. So that premiere wasn't going live until 10 o'clock. So it definitely wasn't on there. what's going on? And then I realized I've been so excited about doing the Premiere stuff. I hadn't actually uploaded the audio to Blueberry in order for it to spiral through. Of course, Hero Post doesn't know whether you've done anything, or because I'd pre-populated the link.
Right.
But there was nothing there, and I was like, "Oh my god!" So I'm in the middle of my Monday morning meeting, just hammering keyboard like this, going trying to get everything uploaded and stuff. Thankfully, all the audio was fine. It was all edited and stitched and stuff. It just needed uploaded, and then all the material put in. But it was the first time I've messed up like that in a while.
It's funny because I have the same fear. I don't know if it's ever happened, but I definitely have the same fear of like, oh, I better be sure to upload this thing. And so one of the things that I do is in terms of the automation for this show, is we have things set up to set the RSS feed itself as the trigger when a new feed item comes in, then do the social media posting.
Right. Yeah.
And that's kind of that link that you were saying, like the hero page or whatever doesn't know when you've done it.
Yes. But I think it was all just because I'd done this this YouTube Premiere approach that really, because it was out of my usual routine, it really sort of messed with my head. So, but thankfully, I wasn't away anywhere or anything like that, so I could just get on with it and sort it out, and really nobody truly noticed. But actually, now that we're saying that, I just wanted, because I'm intrigued to know if whether doing it through the Premiere actually got me any more views or anything, or whether it was just a bit of a waste of time. Oh wow, that's interesting.
Is that interesting because you got more?
Yeah, yes, but not in the way I expect. Right, so that must have been the 4th was Monday. No, what am I looking at here? Sorry, the 18th. Yes, the 18th was when it went live. 19th. Oh, that's cool. So I've started also do repeating posts, which I think I said this on Board People with last week. But I started to do repeat posts, so saying it'll go on the Monday, but then the Wednesday, then the Friday, and then the Sunday, and then trying to leave them, but it doesn't quite schedule properly, which I think is annoying. But I'm starting to see real definitive spikes now in the stats of when I do a post, I get more listens. But I don't want to do a post every day because I think that'll just become repetitive. Or maybe it won't. I don't know.
We're trying that over here on like TikTok and Instagram. We're slicing up the show.
Yes, you did some good stuff there.
Oh yeah, did you see that thing I sent you?
Yes,
the awkward moment.
Made me laugh.
I thought you'd enjoy that because it really wasn't awkward when you consider the context of our relationship and the context of the question.
But you can
look awkward.
Yeah, I mean, you can sort of see it from when you see other people's random bits of particularly sort of YouTube clips and stuff. You could imagine it being almost exactly that same thing, which it tickled me quite a lot.
Yes, it was very good. That was one that I was really proud of.
Nice. You are doing good. So that one, actually, that's doing really, it's only been live for a week. It's doing really quite well. So this one with the Area Safety Center has been quite awesome. I now need to contact them and say, hey, you're doing really well.
Yeah, so did you sit on there live as it premiered and chatted with?
Yeah, I did. I think I chose the wrong time because I did 10 o'clock UK time. Just because I sort of wanted that, which wasn't. I didn't want to, because I'd never done it before. I didn't want to pick a truly popular time, so like midday or sort of mid-afternoon or anything like that, because just in case it all went wrong, I had an ability to not screw things up too much. So the next one I would do, I don't know whether I'll do it over lunchtime, so catching people's lunch break, or possibly even in the early evening. But I don't know. We'll play with that. In some ways, it was because we had a couple of people on it, and I got a couple of messages, and some people appreciate it and stuff. But then, if you were at work and things like that, then it didn't really, you couldn't watch it and things like that. So,
yeah, that's the reason why we don't do premieres, is because this is really the premiere right now, the live stream.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like,
yeah, which makes a lot of sense. So,
yeah.
But because I hadn't realized either, so I finally linked up my YouTube to this as well. And so I was just connecting the channels, and it was like, no, you can't do that because you haven't verified your phone number. And I was like, yes, I have. But he said though I had to try and actually do a live before to set in motion the 24-hour timer it does before you can do lives. And so I haven't been able to do it for this, but for the next one, I will also be able to restream this through my YouTube as well. So we'll have extra coverage. I mean, how awesome would that be?
Very nice.
But then the other thing that I was thinking of doing was, because obviously now with Restream, you can do basically premieres through this with pre-recorded material. So I might just throw a live premiere of it through this, and that might be a way to do it.
Yeah, if you do it through here, you'll get. It's not the same as a premiere.
No, it's not.
It's a live stream, but it's a pre-recorded live stream.
Yeah, so it will get that effect of having a live stream sort of thing. But then I could still chuck the same thing onto YouTube, so it's there, ready to go, and all that sort of stuff. So I don't know. I'm going to play with it and see what happens. It might just be, for what I do, it might just be more hassle with this work. And I'm not a fan of doing too much work, as we all know. Thought I'd be quite lazy.
Yes.
You're not meant to agree with that. Just pointing that out.
Let's see here. I'm looking at our analytics because I haven't checked in a while. And what the heck is going on? Wow.
What's going on, or is that a bad? Oh my god, what's going on?
No, this is a good. What's going on?
That's right.
I mean, YouTube is now, I guess, recommending our content a little bit more frequently, which is interesting.
That's cool.
Because you can, I don't know. There's a funnel of impressions, which is like, how many people did YouTube show this to? Okay, well, 4,500 people saw this. How many of those people clicked through? Well, you had, about 2% click through, which is not great, but at the same time, it's like, think about the type of content that we're producing. A podcast is long form. It's not going to make it, super. I don't know. That's the word I'm looking for here. It's not. People aren't going to stick around for an entire podcast if they're just browsing on YouTube, for something like 5 minutes, So I'm not worried about that. But we have 9 hours, almost 10 hours. Yeah, 10 hours. We'll just say 10 hours because it's 9.95 hours of viewing from our recommendations, from YouTube recommending our content. And then you also have, and that's just from people. That's just from YouTube recommending our content. And then there's other ways in which they break it down, like people clicking on from links, which is, 14% of our stuff. Another 14% is through YouTube search. So people are actually searching for these terms that we're putting out there, and we're coming back, which is good. That's a good that we're matching our external. And then there's direct and unknown, which is like 41%. So we don't know where that's coming from. But yeah, I don't know. We lots of playtime in the last month. We're doing actually really well on. I think honestly, the double decker seats episode did gangbusters. I don't know why. Probably because it's such a. It had. So for awareness, 15 views on last week's episode. I'm not worried about the view count. Like, we're an audio podcast. That's where most of our views come from. And we're small. and we're in a very niche, right? Anyway, you want to guess how many views the double decker episode got?
No idea. Go for it.
98.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Gangbusters. And then here's another really surprising one. Okay, you ready for it?
And then
Of the last couple episodes that we've done, Barry, which episode would you think would have sort of the most impact?
Sentient AI one.
Yeah, so that one did okay. That one was 31.
Right. But
The second most viewed of like the last 10 things that we've put out, TRB's new tool for airport construction.
no way.
79 views. So
it just shows, doesn't it?
there's so what that tells me is that there's a huge market for aviation on YouTube. People are searching for aviation content because you have the double-decker airplane seats, you have the airport construction, and then if I go back and look and see, maybe some of these other topics that have some sort of, I don't know, aviation in the title or something like that. I'm seeing if there's another spike here. Some of our stuff. I guess the last one that we would have talked about was the drones. One person controlling all those drones, but that didn't really have a huge spike there.
But then we have to, having just looked at my content as well, given in this period, so what's that, the last 30 days, isn't it? That's 28 days. Mm-hmm. So still the most popular one I did was the Rail One I launched last sort of 3 weeks ago. But that's been out for a while now. And then the surgical approach to human practice, which is getting a lot of really good interest. And then safety culture one is already third, because I just launched that. And then human practice in healthcare with our friend Tony Andre, and then HFPAs, and then some random one with the bloke from Human Factors Cast.
Oh wow!
We're still sick. Because we did that when like 1st November 2021, so last year, and you're still in the top 6.
Yeah, it's
practice conference. Which,
interesting.
It certainly is. Anyway, there we go. I guess we should stop measuring and things.
Yeah, we should probably focus on the show that we're about to put on for you all. How's my audio? Oh, it's been fine. I just saw your chat. Audio's been okay. No super lags.
The sound quality has been really good. I haven't been watching that much for lagginess in terms of visual, because as long as I'm listening to you, then there's going to be no gaps. So.
Well, that sounds good to me. I'm still going to do a local copy just in case.
That's a very sensible solution. Solution idea. Sorry.
I'm still at a loss of like how to talk about this story tonight. I like, even though we wrote notes, I just don't know. It still feels so.
Yeah, it's kind of. I've sort of got it in my initial reaction notes. I've been interested and going to conferences about this for at least. Well, it was one of the first conferences I went to in one of my first civilian jobs. So you're looking at around 20 years was when I first started looking at this this idea of wearable textile. So it's not new per se. But
well, and they mentioned that in the article too.
Yeah,
they mentioned that they've been trying to work on this for decades.
It just proves how difficult it is, and I guess that's when we talk about the engineering behind it, that this sort of stuff we've got to bring out, because it's just the nature of material. It's not it's got to have a fit, form, and function. That is very different to anything else that you design. So it should be good. It should be good to spin around. All will be done in 10 minutes.
Or we'll be done in 10 minutes. Well, let's time it and see. We'll be right back, and we'll start this show right after this.
Welcome to Human Factors Cast, your weekly podcast for human factors, psychology, and design.
Hello, what's going on, everybody? This is episode 252. We're recording this live on July 21st, 2022. This is Human Factors Cast. I'm your host, Nick Roome. I'm joined today by Mr. Barry Kirby.
Hello there.
Okay, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Apparently, I'm sitting across the way from Obi-Wan Kenobi. We got a great show for you tonight. We're going to be talking about how there's going to be these potentially smart textiles that sense how their users are moving. We're also going to talk about some other stuff as soon as my notes update here. Wow, how professional. No, we're going to be talking about... They disappeared on me. What a great start. What are we talking about?
I think you're trying to do something really cool. Anyway, we've got some It Came Froms that are really cool, and we might have had to do some slight modification on them. But I think you need to go into programming notes.
Yeah. So, yeah, some great topics tonight. So anyway, programming notes. Hey, next week, everybody, we're going to be off. We got some stuff that is going on. Barry's going on vacation. I'm just taking a break.
Yay.
But it's just a break from our normal programming. We are still going to have something great for you in its place. I had the chance to sit down with Joe Keebler, who's the chair of the International Symposium on Human Factors and Ergonomics in Healthcare, to talk about the conference this year. But we switched up our normal conference coverage to a little bit to include some great discussion about the healthcare field as a whole, and where we could go in the future. And man, I think we got way out there. At one point, robot surgeons on long distance space flight was brought up. So I mean, like that's how far out there we kind of got. But yeah, it's a great discussion, and I'm really looking forward to that hitting the airwaves. We really like Joe. He's been on the show before. Funny enough, I've never actually talked to him on the show. I've only he's been on the show, but it was when Elise went out as our field correspondent. I think we'd only talked one other time before this. Anyway, so we'll be back, though, with our regular episodes on August 4th. So check your feeds for that interview. It'll be great. Barry, what's going on with 1202?
So 1202, eventually we got the episode up because I had a slight technical inability to actually upload the audio, which is a problem with podcasting. But once I uploaded the audio, about 10 minutes late, then we got the show where I talked to the RAF Safety Centre. So the Royal Air Force over here in the UK, they have a safety centre, and we spoke about just culture, which is it's not a new thing, but it's certainly becoming more popular about how organisations deal with blame and how people feel about reporting. So the RAF has been going through this cultural evolution, you could say, over around a decade or so. And so we've got an insight on what they've been doing around that and how they've done that, but also how they treat and deal with human factors and human factors training as a whole, and how it has positively affected the organization. So that's live now, and go and have a listen and let us know what you think. And Nick's not.
That's right. This is the part of the show all about human factors news. Barry Kirby, what's the story this week?
But the story this week is smart textiles sense how their users are moving. So MIT researchers have produced smart textiles that snugly conform to the body so they can sense the wearer's posture and motions. Through the use of these smart shoes and a compression mat, machine learning algorithms can measure and interpret data from pressure sensors in real time. By incorporating a special type of plastic yarn and using heat to slightly melt it, the researchers were able to greatly improve the precision of pressure sensors woven into the multi-layered knit textiles, which they called 3D knits. The multi-layer knit textile is composed of 2 layers of conductive yarn knit sandwiched around a piezoresistive knit, which changes its resistance when squeezed. A machine is used to stitch this functional yarn through the textile in horizontal and vertical rows. Where the functional fibers intersect, they create a pressure sensor. The pressure sensor data is then displayed as a heat map. Those images are fed to a machine learning model, which is then trained to detect the posture, pose, or motion of the user based on the heat map image. The machine learning system was then able to predict motions and yoga poses performed by individual standing on the smart textile mat with about 99% accuracy. Now that the researchers have demonstrated the success of their fabrication technique, they plan to refine the circuit and machine learning model. So, Nick, what are your thoughts on our socks being smarter than we are? So we clearly have no idea what Nick thinks because
Okay.
he doesn't.
Yep. No,
Oh, there
here
we
we
go.
go. Here's my thoughts. I
Go on
wish I
then.
could get a mic that senses when I'm going to be about to talk and unmutes for me.
Ah,
My computer's
that's
lagging really bad on my end, and so the mic button was on and off. Anyway, I'm gonna have to do a bunch in post for this. Anyway, look, this is one of those stories where I looked at it and went, "Yeah, we have plenty to talk about," and then it was chosen, and I go, "What are we gonna talk about?" Because in some ways it is very simple. They've created socks that sense the wearer's intent to move, and that seems like a very simple thing. But then when you start thinking about the applications and where this could potentially play in, it becomes a lot more interesting. And that was kind of my thought process over the course of the day or over the course of the week as I selected this story as a potential thing. Throw it in there, see what comes back. It came back, and then I was like, "But what?" And then we explored it a little bit. Now we're going to explore it now. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this, Barry. I need to talk to you today about how I feel about this story. How do you feel about this?
Well, I'm always here to talk about your feelings, Nick, and how you feel about stories. So it's a good job I'm here. So for me, and they do acknowledge this in the article as well. This is not new. This is stuff that I've been going to. I've always had an interest in wearable technologies, and this is truly wearable technology. And I remember going to probably one of the first conferences on this topic around 20 years ago when they were talking about true like sort of wearables, but we were looking at fabrics with lights on them. So it was fashion based technology, I think, in many ways. It was like, how can there was some interesting things like having a heat map on your body. So as you got hotter, then the LEDs went from sort of green to red in a sort of a network all over your body, which in theory was a good idea, but then you got to the practicalities of it, and yeah, not so good. But all these sort of sensors. But what I think they've done here is really interesting because as it's been in development over all these years, the sensors have always been a clunky add-on. The sensor has always been something new in that respect. So for them to have actually truly integrated into it, it's not so much I think about what they've done with the socks and what they've done with yoga, but actually what potential is this now going to unleash? What is it? What are the future applications of this that it could be? Because we'll talk a bit later about they haven't just done it in socks; they've done it into different textiles and things, and that's where I think the exciting bit is about it. So it's a springboard for me. I think it's going to be. I think we should have quite a good discussion as long as you remember to switch your mic on.
Yeah, mic is on. I'm good to go. Let's start talking about it because I think the first thing I'm not going to go in order of our show notes because that's responsible, and I'm clearly off the deep end
Boring.
already. So here's the thing. I want to go to the first place in which I thought about this. I think the first thought I had in terms of application was uh, really it was aviation.
Mhm.
So the thing for me is you're controlling rudder with your feet, and I guess this is applicable. And shortly after, my thought went to surface transportation as well. You're controlling things with your feet, and if these wearables can detect your movements and detect your intent before you even do it based on, like, I don't know, micro movements of your muscles in your feet, it can then adjust the system to accommodate for what it thinks you're going to do. So, for example, let's say um, you're driving, right? Let's use the surface transportation example because that's a lot more familiar to a lot more people. Let's say you're driving down the road and you look ahead of you and you see a car stopped, and so you need to take your foot off of the brakes and onto the gas. Now the car can understand when you take your foot off the brake, or sorry, off the gas, but it can't understand that you're moving over to the brake, and it's a confirmation then for the system that you are actually intending to brake, and it might actually brake earlier if it detects that you're moving that way. And so I don't know, there's some, like, really small improvements that we can make, and really, when we're talking about something like surface transportation, milliseconds matter when it comes to reaction time, and so if you see a ball, coming down the way, um, and there's a child in the street, and you lift your foot off the gas and go over to the brake, if it can automatically brake before you even get to that pedal, uh, and let's say, like, this is a hypothetical situation where the sensors on board in a high-tech car are not picking up things in the environment that you are as a driver, right? That's kind of the scenario here. So that's kind of my first thought of where this application could go, and, I mean, that's everyone wearing these socks while they drive is a little far-fetched, but think about that type of application where maybe, you have, defense applications where they are maneuvering different vehicles, and you have something very similar going on. Barry, where do you want to go from here?
So I want to, the sort of thing that hit me first was actually around the training application, because I've done lots of things in the past where it's um, you have to learn what it is that you're doing and repeat the action time and time again. So I used to do a lot of rifle shooting, but it's always very hard to coach somebody in rifle shooting when you don't truly know. You can coach people and tell them what to do and what you feel, and hopefully they'll feel similar things. Um, but you, at least with something like this, or just taking it's not again, it's just the springboard stuff where we don't just have them in socks. You have like almost like throughout a uniform or throughout whatever you're wearing to do these sort of sports. I mean, good sports to begin with, so you can use it for that to make sure that you got personal reference that you're doing the same thing and again and again. So if you're lying in the prone position, that you are in the same shape that you always are, and things like that. So you can get that confirmatory stuff. So that was the first bit, and then I sort of sprung onto a lot of springboarding tonight in terms of body movement, because when you're doing sort of high performance athletics, which clearly I do a lot of, it's about how far can you push your body before it's unsafe. So if you're stretching, you may be doing lifting, and if you've got bio measurements going on that through, because it talks about machine learning and the use of AI and things like that in terms of a platform, could it give you feedback onto actually, with the movements you're doing, you're going to strain a muscle or do yourself some damage, and give you earlier feedback than normally you go and you can feel like, say you pulled a muscle or you've got an ache or something. If you could give you preemptive warning before that point, so you actually know, actually I was about to push myself too far, and you've saved your muscles, you've saved whatever, then that could be really, really powerful. But then also the flip side of that is well, it could also show you when you haven't done enough. If you've got an ability to, say, you're stretching off, or you're maybe again like lifting something, or doing some sort of endurance, if through the sensors it knows that actually you could push yourself that little bit harder, you've got the capability to do so, then actually it could give you that positive feedback of actually no, you can go a bit further. There is obviously problems then of when he gets that wrong and you do end up pulling a muscle, but there is obviously a lot of work to do in that area around that type of thing. Then the last bit that I'll steal before throwing it back towards you is kind of what you were saying around how you use this in cars, how you use this in aviation. Similar could be said for simulation. When you're using simulators to do training and things like that, it could you could actually use these in, so you don't need maybe all the pedals and stuff that you would in a high fidelity simulator, could just have it, just being able to do the movements and being able to detect the movements, feed into a simulation, so you don't need to spend as much money on, say, a cockpit simulator and things like that. You can actually do more around a more medium or low fidelity simulator that way, because you basically you're recording the movements anyway. You can get the intent of what they were trying to do and feed it into that sort of thing. So that's my sort of piece around training. Where would you like to take it next?
Well, I want to comment on the sort of training aspect of body movement and endurance, because I actually put this under, another part of our notes here in terms of personal fitness. And I think it's one of those things where it can cross over in many different directions. And so the fact that we both came up with these applications without looking at each other's notes is actually really impressive. So I actually wrote down, improving form when doing things that involve feet for like weight training, right? So if you're, if your feet could be further apart or further together, like this is personal fitness. This isn't necessarily training for like infantry or anything like that. And so I just think that there's potential applications there. There's absolutely personalized recommendations based on the way that you're carrying yourself. These socks would be able to understand what pressure is being put on your body at that time and whether or not you are maintaining good form based on your foot placement and all that stuff. And so, yeah, I had a lot of the same points, and I thought that was funny that we both came up with that. And so I guess the next place that I want to go is kind of along the lines of when you said simulation. For me, big VR guy over here, I'm thinking virtual environments. They actually might. So one constant issue with virtual environments is the processing power required to render these environments in a high enough fidelity, or high fidelity. I shouldn't say high enough fidelity, but a high fidelity render of these environments. Because you are looking through a device that doesn't know where you're going to look next. But if you had that tied into some wearables on your feet, that could sense when, based on like micro muscle movements, when you were about to pick up your foot and move in a different direction, it might be able to help the computer processing power render that a little bit better, and assist with some of that latency that often contributes to things like motion sickness. And so that to me is a huge thing that could potentially be improved, I guess, by this type of technology. And it links back to training, right? A lot of training is done in virtual environments through VR. And so when you have that sort of reduction in latency and less people experiencing this sort of motion sickness, you're going to be able to move more people into VR and present them with novel situations that they may or may not be able to train for in real life because they are dangerous or unsafe, or any other adjective that you want to use about those. And so I think that's another really great application. I'm going to pass it over to you because I feel like you have something to say about that.
Yeah, I was going to say that certainly could help with the whole uncanny valley situation, couldn't it? But also really with augmented reality. When you look at augmented reality applications, this is something to do with that anticipatory processing. We might have just come up with a term there that might be, we should copyright that or something. Anticipatory processing, I like it. But the idea that if you're been able to allow the AR to process quicker and know what's going on, then you'll deliver a smoother outcome. So yeah, absolutely. I think that is a almost an inspired application of this. And like I say, that tie over between that and training, I think the application of this in training in terms of being, good form, good function, absolutely. But also we've got the that rehabilitation side. The one that sort of came to me was if people who are looking to engage after significant injury, again going for the whole application, rather than having to have a physio there all the time, can it give you the feedback? Because some people just want to go and do it on their own. Can it give you that feedback to play with that game? So yeah, I think there is a lot there. Have you got anything more around the sort of healthcare application that excites you?
Yeah, we'll pull in a couple from the article here, right? So you mentioned rehabilitation. You could track the gait of somebody who's learning to walk again after an injury. Socks could monitor pressure on a diabetic person's foot uh, to prevent formation of ulcers. They also talk about some of the accuracy with these 3D knits and how it could make them useful for applications like prosthetics, where precision is essential, and being able to control those prosthetics. A smart textile liner could measure the pressure a prosthetic limb places on the socket, enabling a prosthesis to easily see how well the device fits. So, with fitting and adjustment on these prosthetics, it could really help. But I also feel like, this could potentially help with something like proprioception down the line if the prosthetic itself is understanding the intent based on where you're moving it. Then yeah, it could definitely have some impact there. The last thing I think here from the article that I'll bring up in terms of healthcare is sort of the this type of thinking around being able to apply it to this domain will really enhance injury prevention. It's weird to say it that way, but it will reduce injuries and it will enhance detection techniques to help evaluate some of this direct rehabilitation. So I think there's some really good healthcare applications. And I it does really excite me in terms of the different domains. Like, just in this, I guess, couple minutes that we've been talking, we've already talked on healthcare. We've talked on
Yeah.
training. We've talked on virtual environments, surface transportation, aviation, defense. There's so many things that we've already touched on based on this little sock. It's a sock.
It is, and because I want to now bounce to somewhere else, I want to look at health and safety, because one of the things that we talk about a lot is health in but health in the workplace, safety in the workplace, and that type of thing. Is this something that could be applied to help you? I was thinking around hazardous environments, particularly where you put fences up to say where you're not going to pass because a machine's in use or something like that. Could this actually help with that type of thing? So if it recognizes that you're about to step into an excluded area, for example, somebody might not have put the gate up properly or the fence, but actually it's recognized as almost a geofenced area, but to a high level of precision. Could wearing the sock recognizes it's because the sensors involved, it's going to pass through this geofenced area that should be a safety area. But it could actually then send an alert. I mean, I guess it could send like sort of electric shocks into the feet, but that's a different application. It could send it to your watch or to your device to say you're about to cross a safety threshold. I think there is that sort of element, but also if you're using, if you're not wearing the appropriate footwear, can your socks sense that you're wearing the appropriate steel toe cap boots, or that type of thing. So actually helping you with your PPE, make sure that you're doing the right thing for the task that you're going to go and do. I just think there is so much application there. Again, it's Springboard, because they weren't talking about that in the actual article itself. It's about it's more about what we can do with it to take it forward. Do you think you could wear them, or do you think it might get annoying to wear clothing that's telling you you're not wearing the right footwear?
I don't know. It depends on there it is. It depends on the sorry, I'm so distracted by that now that I've lost my train of thought. I think really though, it really it does depend on the application and what the benefits are from wearing it all day, right? I can see a situation where if it, I don't know, saves my life multiple times a day because it senses I'm about to step on one of my son's Hot Wheels, then yeah, I wouldn't mind wearing these all day. I think if I was working in a hazardous environment, I would definitely wear them. If talk about PPE, this is like, another piece of PPE that you would have to wear, because it's almost like a anticipatory what did you say, anticipatory sensor or something. So in a way it's almost like a sixth sense that you're wearing, that you're putting on your feet, that sixth sense is then processed by an artificial intelligent machine learning system that can tell what your intent is based on your proprioception, based on your movement, or it can tell more about your proprioception than you can, is what I'm trying to say there, and that's quite remarkable, I think. I think there's. Oh yeah, go ahead.
I guess there is that bit as well. Is if you can put it on your feet and make a sock out of it, you can make a glove out of it.
Yeah.
Therefore, stop you putting your hand into things that you shouldn't be putting your hands into. I think there's
Barry,
there's
we're talking about socks here.
I know, but I think that it is one of these things. It's like what we've done on other episodes when we sat there and gone, actually, we're not entirely sure whether this is we could talk about this for a significant period of time. But actually, when you start looking at the application of what you can play with, just something as simple as this, I think it's quite cool. I never thought I'd see socks as cool as this.
These are the socks that you want in your Christmas stocking, right? As a holiday gift.
I see what you did there. The stocking inside the stocking.
There you go. Yeah.
The bit that we haven't covered is, so we're assuming here that they all work right. What happens when they go wrong and you start getting duff data? Because the way obviously it works, they sort of highlight it's a mesh and all that sort of stuff. If we are going to start using them in, because we've now basically going to sell them into the safety critical industries as a clear PPE piece of PPE. What happens if that sort of stuff goes wrong and it starts giving you cues that are wrong, or even if it's just you're an athlete and it starts pulling out weird data? I think there's how do you bring out the or how do you warn the fact that it's not great? I guess it would have to be through the device, wouldn't it? There's no other way of really doing it. You certainly don't want to give you electric shocks or buzzes when it's not working properly.
Yeah, I want to talk. You're right. What happens when it gets it wrong? But I do want to talk briefly about sort of the accuracy, because they do comment on this, right? They say that once a model was trained, and they do training on the model for each individual wearer. So that is kind of one limitation right now. It's still in its infancy, and it's got to be tailored towards the individual. But once it is trained, it could classify the user's activity on the smart mat. And that's another thing that we're talking about here is it has to be in conjunction with this mat. There's a separate mat, which you could build into certain interfaces, right? Like some of the things that we've talked about, just taking a quick aside here, but you could build it into things like pedals, or you could build it into things like a space around a machine that you don't want to sort of interact with. You could also build it into like weightlifting mats, right? So I'm bringing it back to some of the topics that we've talked about because that's an important contextual thing that I don't think we mentioned. So there is a mat. But once the model was trained, it could classify the user's activity on the smart mat, so whether they're walking, running, doing push-ups, etc., with 99.6% accuracy, and could recognize 7 different yoga poses with 97.7% accuracy. And so thinking about the data that goes into this, it's just feet, and it's just a mat that is looking at this. And so when I look at what goes wrong, that is a 0.4% for those first 4 things: walking, running, doing push-ups. And then the yoga poses is like 1.3%. It's a low percentage. Yes, we do have to figure out what happens when it goes wrong and what the critical what the steps are to fix those issues in a like mission critical environment. But that high level of accuracy is really really striking. Yeah, it's striking to me. Like that is a high level of accuracy. And we are just talking about this from the perspective of this small ecosystem, the sock and the mat. When you combine that with other pieces of technology that could potentially understand a little bit more about what's going on in an environment, such as, I don't know, external cameras that are monitoring a situation, also using machine learning to understand user intent. When you pair it with other things like, I don't know, even something as simple as a smartwatch that is taking things like heart rate monitoring, albeit, less accurate than something else. when they're doing something like heart rate monitoring, activity tracking. When you pair it, you get a much more clear picture. And so I think we're talking about this in a vacuum, but when you start to combine it with other pieces of technology and other solutions, you really get some good coverage and some good applications. I don't think we've even broken the surface on yet.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I think there is this whole idea, and they do say that they were in the article that they've been exploring more collaborative applications. So, in collaboration with a sound designer and a contemporary dancer, they developed the smart textile carpet that drives musical notes and soundscapes based on the dancer's steps to explore the bidirectional relationship between music and choreography. So, really, what that's doing there is taking movement and pairing it with another input output. So, in this case, sound and that type of thing. But just the fact that you're interacting with your environment in a different way is just fascinating. And you could sort of see with other applications, you could take what, as you quite rightly say, is in theory quite a simple technology, although quite complex to build and make sure it works. But it is still simple nonetheless. Of how we can how we can use this and make our environments more interactive. And your point is a really good one in the fact that this on its own possibly has limited value, but combine it with other basically with the rich data sets that we've got nowadays, because we do have cameras out there. We're all wearing smartphones, watches, all that sort of stuff, which kind of leads me to sort of one of my last points here is there is a lot of data there. And as with a lot of these papers that we talk about, it's still in its infancy, etc., 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 etc. But where and how is all this data processed? And is there an opportunity there for so how you design all this will need to take into account that all this data is going to be there and it needs to be time synchronized and all that sort of good stuff. But is there an aspect here where what could people learn about you if they were to steal this data? Because there's a lot of people talking at the moment around, or have been talking around, a lot of people wearing Fitbits and heart rate monitors and all that sort of stuff, and putting all that data out into the cloud, onto cloud servers, which is all well and good. But then all these companies are then using that data anonymized, granted, but they're then able to use all them vast data sets in order to make computational leaps. And so again, where would this data be stored? How would it be used? And how would people see with data privacy? Could something what's the unintended consequence? I don't think that's necessary. It's not a blocker in any way, but yeah, I do think it is something that we probably need to think about.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that introduces a whole separate cybersecurity threat to this type of technology, especially when you're accessing sort of this machine learning AI database that is predictive in nature too. If it's predicting what you'll do next based on your movements, that can totally, play into, I don't know, like I'm thinking of a futuristic world where you're wearing these smart shoes that need no mat. It's kind of all built into one system. You're looking around and you go to turn and there's an advertisement that's tailored to you because there's some system that's listening to your, it's almost like the targeted ads on your phone, but now it's everywhere in the environment on these screens because it knows you are looking. And that's kind of this scary future that I think a lot of marketers want. But yeah, I will say sort of my last point here is kind of looking at the future of research on this. They do mention the authors of this paper do mention that they want to conduct tests on smart shoes outside of this lab environment, right? To see how other conditions like temperature, humidity impact the accuracy of the sensors. Beyond that, I'm really excited to see where these researchers think that there's application outside of the domains that they've already mentioned, outside of the domains that we've mentioned. Somebody listening somewhere is yelling at us saying, you didn't bring up this domain and it would be totally cool in this domain. I know somebody out there is yelling at us right now. And I want to hear from you. Like, where is that domain? Like, tell us. It's super exciting to me. And it's just some, simple oversight on our part. That's just, I wish we knew. And so like the future of this is exciting. And yes, there's some things that we got to figure out, but I don't know. You've turned me around on smart socks, Barry. Are there any other points that you want to make about this article before we move on?
Yeah, if they've got some going spare that they want testing, then just send them over. I'm more than happy to do that.
Same here. Well, thank you to our patrons this week for selecting our topic, and thank you to our friends over at MIT News for our news story this week. If you want to follow along, we do post the links to the original articles on our weekly roundups on our blog. You can also join us on Discord for more discussion on these stories and more. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back to see what's going on in the Human Factors community right after this.
Human Factors Cast brings you the best in human factors news, interviews, conference coverage, and overall fun conversations into each and every episode we produce. But we can't do it without you. The Human Factors Cast network is 100% listener supported. All the funds that go into running the show come from our listeners. Our patrons are our priority, and we want to ensure we're giving back to you for supporting us. Pledges start at just $1 per month and include rewards like access to our weekly Q&As with the hosts, personalized professional reviews, and Human Factors Minute, a Patreon-only weekly podcast where the hosts break down unique, obscure, and interesting human factors topics in just 1 minute. Patreon rewards are always evolving, so stop by patreon.com/humanfactorscast to see what support level may be right for you. Thank you, and remember, it depends.
Yes, huge thank you as always to our patrons. We especially want to thank our honorary Human Factors Cast staff patron, Michelle Tripp. Patrons like you keep the show running, keep the lab running. And speaking of the lab, we have been hard at work on Human Factors Minute. It's our supporter-only podcast where we do a bunch of research on a section of human factors, UX, HCI, break it down in theoretically a minute or less. But looking at some stats, you're actually getting a little bit more than a minute on average. So we're hard at work over here. Barry, last time we checked in on Human Factors Minute, I think we're at like 121 episodes. Do you want to take a guess as to how many episodes we have now?
Well, it's got to be more than that. So, I don't know, over 130?
Over 130 is a great number. In fact, we talked about this 8 weeks on the show. 10 weeks on the show. We do the check-in of the Patreon stats every 10 weeks, which is all interesting. So
I didn't get that. I should have realized my pattern matching isn't very good.
So if you think about it, right, we should be at 131, right? 10 more weeks. No, we're at 136 because we did a whole bunch of episodes for Pride that we released out publicly. So we're at 136 episodes with a total runtime of 2 hours, 49 minutes, and 10 seconds. So really exciting. And then we also have an average length of 1 minute and 15 seconds. Like I said, you're getting a little bit more. Longest episode and shortest episode really haven't changed much. We still have the Human Factors Ergonomic Society technical group of surface transportation and the HFE tag, system safety, health hazard, survivability. 3 of them at 159. We're trying really hard to come in under that 2 minutes. So that way we can say at least the leading number is 1 minute. And then our shortest one was on the aging technical group at 40 seconds. So, Human Factors Minute is something that I'm incredibly proud of. It is a passion project for not only me, but so many people in our Human Factors Cast digital media lab. So they've authored many of the scripts. Even though Barry, Blake, myself read them, they've authored many of them. And yes, this is still an exclusive place where you can hear that Blake content. We're still working on that. I promise. But sorry, it has to be behind a paywall. But anyway, let's get into this next part of the show we like to call.
It came from.
That's right. It came from. This is the part of the show where we search all over the internet to bring you topics that the community, that could be anybody, as long as it's talking about human factors, it's good. If you find this stuff useful, give us a like wherever you're watching or listening to help other people find this content. Algorithms, yada yada. Anyway, we got 3 tonight. This first one's by Regina Squirrel on the UX Research subreddit. They write, red flag in the job description, wouldn't want to work for a boss like that. They then submit an image with a portion of this job description circled. The part of that's circled is the candidate must have a minimum of 5 years cumulative experience performing research duties. Any gaps in between projects or assignments do not count towards the 5 years. Barry, do you think this is a red flag?
Yes, it is, but I've got no problem with people posting adverts like that because of exactly what it's done. It's really highlighted to me. I don't want to go and work there. If you're being that specific, they must have a reason for saying that for themselves. And for whatever reason they're bringing it up, I think it works because as has been highlighted already, people think it's a red flag. They're already sitting there going, well, actually, I don't want to apply for that because it doesn't sound for what it is that I want to do. And it might be completely wrong. There might be amazing company to work for and all that sort of stuff, but they must have a reason in their heads about why they've come up with that. And so I think it's great because I think it gives you good warning of what it is you're going into. You cannot go into that job interview. If you applied for it, you cannot go into that job interview and not think that they might be potentially difficult to work with, is what I get from that. What do you think, Nick?
Look, I think so first comment I'll make is that there were a lot of people in the comment section of this Reddit post pointing out other things that were bigger red flags than this, like the 6 to 12 plus months is the duration with high possibility of extension. That means 6 months. That means they're not going to keep you. But to me, this type of thing means that they've ran into an experience where, and we'll talk about this a little bit later in another It Came From, but they've ran into somebody who didn't quite meet their expectations for what they wanted within this role. I would imagine it was somebody who came forth and said, I've worked as a researcher or a human factors practitioner for X amount of years, but then I switched over and did this other thing, and then I switched back, and they considered it 5 years of research or 5 years of experience, and they're saying it doesn't count because they've ran into that situation. And to me, that screams that they don't know exactly how to articulate the type of person that they're looking for, because this seems so sloppy to ask it for it this way. It's like, and to lead with that, to say you need 5 years of cumulative experience. Like, I think that's pretty well understood, and you just had a bad experience with somebody. I don't know. I feel like this also could have not been written by the people who are hiring. This could have been written by a recruiter. This could have been written by HR. This could have been written by any given person in this company, depending on how big. We don't really have that additional context. But to me, it screams of we've had a bad experience and we're trying to control for it by putting more words in our job description.
Yeah, I think quite possible. I mean, the rest of the spec actually is, once you get down to the scope of what it's meant to do, actually that's quite well detailed, I think.
Yeah.
Give you a really good insight into what they want. So they clearly do know what they want. And like I say, they've just for whatever reason, they're sort of highlighting right up at the top that they don't want this. So I think if people are scared off by that, then it automatically gives you that idea of, well, actually, don't apply.
Yep. I feel you. All right, let's get into this next one. This one's by Kaz18 Cash on the user experience subreddit. They say, interview question: which part of UX are you bad at? This caught me off guard. Want to know how you see it handled when you're interviewing someone for a mid-career to senior role. So I just thought this was a great springboard. Barry, what part of UX or human factors are you bad at?
Well, I'm not bad at anything, Nick. I'm possibly not very good at admitting what I'm bad at. It's not necessarily I'm bad at things. I think there's things I'm less experienced at. Human safety analysis, things like that. Human reliability analysis is stuff that I haven't done as much on. I think there's elements of Domains I haven't done that much experience in. So having done some stuff that I was doing this week, I realized that there's certain sectors that I was like, actually, we could be applying human factors to, but I just have never done it. So nervousness about pushing that sort of stuff. But I think this is one of the things I do like about the human factors world is kind of the principles stay the same. Trends come and go. There are flavors of the month. There's different bits, but actually, if you've got core principles at heart, generally you'll get yourself by at most things. There must be something I am really bad at. I might have to come back. I might blurt it out later on, halfway through.
It's a tough one.
Because clearly I'm not brilliant at everything.
Did this catch you off too? Right? Like
it has. I think it has. I think there's, like I said, there are bits I'm not very good at. But that's because I'm not bad at them. It's just because I've not done them. I'm gonna have to think. Well, what about you, Nick? What are you terrible at?
Well, okay, they said bad, not terrible. So look, like I also picked this question and I said, "Oh, that's a great question. I don't know how to answer, but it's a great question." And I also don't know how to answer because yes, being able to identify our own flaws is it's a skill. And so if I had to go with something, it'd be identifying my own flaws. But seriously, I think the thing that I struggle with a lot of times is switching domains. And I know you kind of mentioned it, but being able to think or not even think, but to understand even at a base level what's going on in a particular domain that's complex. So like when I shifted to defense after being in electrical for a while, I had a really hard time understanding everything about military structure. And that's very complex when you think about the relationships between people. And so there were some things that I could learn, but then there were things that I needed to learn through experience and actually talking to people. And that's actually one of my most enjoyed parts of the job is talking to people and understanding exactly what they're doing. And so I think my weakness is a strength, but in reality, it takes me a long time to truly understand what's going on. I like recently made the shift to supply chain logistics, and I just now feel like 9 months in that I'm starting to kind of understand it. And there's plenty of materials out there that you can read and try to understand, but until you really see the whole thing in action, that to me is kind of my weakness. And so, but yeah, you're right. There are other transferable skills that go from domain to domain. I know how to talk to users. I know how to set up research. I know how to do those things. But understanding the domain is a little bit of a challenge for me. It's just like switching gears and starting from scratch to go in another direction. It feels like for me. Have you thought about it anymore? Do you have anything else?
Picking my battles can be a struggle. So it's the ones where you want to you see things going wrong and you want to solve everything. I've got no problem with prioritizing my work, prioritizing my battles. I know which ones are the important ones to fight, but I still want to solve all of them. And sometimes I can struggle to step back and say, actually, no, leave. We need to go and do something else. Stop trying to solve them ones. And I guess the other one is that, as you sort of highlight, when you go into a new role or something like that, I do suffer from imposter syndrome massively. So if you go into a new domain, and I've sort of had it fairly recently with a new role I sort of picked up, and I've gone into a brand new domain and a new perspective, I think is a good way of describing it. And I did start off going, well, what happens if I mess this up? I can't do this job. That this is mad. Why do they think I can do this job? And then within a couple of weeks, you're like, yeah, of course I can do this. What am I worried about? And then people come and ask you questions, and it's so that there's sort of probably two things that they're not particularly UXy things. I don't think they are just general sort of management-y sort of managing yourself type stuff. But they're two things that can trip me up quite a lot. Yeah. There we go. Bared my soul.
Oh, you saved it. All right. Last one up here is from the UX research subreddit. This is by Chirata, and they write, how often do you find it difficult to recruit candidates for interviews? So this is actually a senior question. That's really all they wrote, or really what actually happened is their post got deleted and we couldn't get the raw text. But But I thought the prompt was enough of a good question to ask, because this is a more senior question from, like mid-level management to management perspective of actually hiring candidates, that I think is really important to touch on, because we do know that some of you listen to the show, and we don't get nearly enough of these types of questions. So, Barry, what generally is the market like for you, especially from the UK perspective? I could talk a little bit about the US, but what's it like?
From the UK perspective, it's interesting. It's certainly there's a lot of roles out there at the moment. There are definitely positions available, but it's interesting because some of them are just open. If you go and talk to people, then people can make spaces. I mean, we have perpetual positions open all the time because there's so few people, I think, coming into the marketplace from getting their masters or getting their qualifications and stuff. Comparatively few people that you kind of want to find the right person. So given that I run a small company, we constantly try, we'll take our time to try and find the right sort of people. The thing that I struggle with as well alongside this is there's a big drive at the moment, and I completely get it, about putting salary numbers onto roles, which you should absolutely do. But then I do suffer myself from saying, I just want to meet people, because actually you might see somebody who's either, brand new shiny graduate, who you can see massive amounts of potential for, but you might also have somebody who is either want to do flexible working or retiring, or or coming close to retirement and they want one more job, and all this sort of stuff. And all of these people bring different values, and I quite like to recruit on what's going to build my team, what is going to bring something, a nuance to the team that maybe we don't have. And but that's because we're a small team. If you're a larger team, then sometimes it can be, one way it's easy to recruit if you've got the almost that production line type approach. So I think it is difficult to recruit, only because there isn't enough people in the marketplace at the moment. And also, certainly personally, we're trying to find right people. But even on bigger projects, you always see the phrases coming up, must have 6-12 months experience and things like that. And there just isn't enough people out there with that right sort of experience. But that's in the UK. What's it like in the US, Nick?
Exactly the same. I will tell you, it's so strange, because you go and look at the market, and there's this abundance of positions available. It's definitely a workers market right now. And I know some companies are kind of shutting that down and doing some hiring freezes, but generally there's an abundance of positions available, because I think right now we're starting to understand the importance of us in our role. And then there's maybe not so many people available for those roles. And what the trend that I'm noticing is that what that means is that a lot of companies are promoting from within. Maybe people who are or are not ready for those more advanced roles. And because of that, they jump up in title. And so when you are requesting a position of a certain title, you might get candidates that in your head don't necessarily meet the expectations of somebody at that title. And I find that is one real big challenge right now, is because of this sort of early promotion in a lot of the workforce. You kind of have to reset your expectations for what a senior in a role is, or what a mid-level role is, or even what a management role is. And so there's this like weird adjustment of expectations right now. And because of that, yes, it's very difficult, because even when you find people to apply for that position and you talk to them, it's like, okay, this is not matching the profile that I had. And then you run into issues like in that first question, where they had to describe very distinctly what that experience was like. 5 years, cumulative, no gaps, or so you run into weird situations like that, where you have those expectations aren't being met, or those expectations, I should say, on the hiring part isn't adjusted to meet the expectations of what the market looks like. It's a very weird market right now. It's weird.
It is, and
I don't know.
we're trying to find some. So we're actually going to be putting out start recruitment drive in, I think, in the next month or so, because we're going to do a 2-stage or 2 bursts of recruitment over the next 12 to 18 months, and one of them has got, it's almost a bit like that earlier thing where it has a language application. So we've got a similar thing where actually I want a human factors practitioner of any sort of standard, to be honest, as long as they fit the team, but we want them to speak Welsh, because of where we're at in our geography and this, that, and the other. And there are, funny enough, there's not that many human factors practitioners out there in the first place. To find one that also speaks Welsh is going to prove incredibly difficult. So yeah, it's interesting. The more precise you end up being on your job advert, the less chance you've got of filling it. So just because the way the market is at the moment,
it's a careful balance on the more senior side to write up those job descriptions. All right. Well, why don't we go ahead and get into one more thing? We don't need an introduction for this. Barry, what's your one more thing this week?
Well, I've started a new sport. I started a couple of weeks ago, but I've started to do archery. It's something I did years ago, but then past couple of weeks I've sort of got back into it, got into a beginner's course and things like that. I've currently got a very aching shoulder because I was doing it last night and it was good fun. But it's really it's what I found about it is it's a really good way, because you have to focus on what you're doing. You have to sort of clear your mind to be able to focus on, basically putting arrows down the range and things like that. And I'm just thoroughly enjoying it at the moment, picking up some new skills and actually it's a very, I guess, a physical thing to do, but without, out anything like running and things like that make you exert yourself. So it's quite a strength, but a bit of a stamina thing. And yeah, I'm thoroughly enjoying it.
Yeah, you got tired of hitting bullseyes on the podcast, so you needed to hit bullseyes in real life, right?
Something like that, yeah.
All right.
Well, I think you did
for me, my one more thing this week is new internet. I don't know if you've all been noticing, but Barry, how's my audio quality been tonight?
You've been mostly okay. I think
mostly okay.
Mostly okay, except for the way you messed yourself up by leaving yourself on mute.
Yeah, so that's really the only issue. And color me surprised, because this is I'm not going to mention the company, but there's a company that gives you a service that is they give you basically a router that connects to mobile internet. I'm on 5G right now, having a podcast with you, streaming everywhere. We've been taxing this system. I unplugged my other internet. Didn't stop paying for it yet. I'm testing this still. And the real test is if I can podcast on this. Color me surprised, because I am getting better speeds on 5G through this thing, because we're like less than a mile from a tower. It's like right there. And like, I don't know, it's killer speeds, more than we're getting on our wired line. There's just a couple quirks with it that make it harder for like things like VoIP, which voice over internet protocol, for a lot of what I do for my job is meet with people. And so it's like, it's almost there and I'm very excited about it. And it's so good. It's just that little bit that's holding me back. And it's so cheap too. Anyway, that's my one more thing this week. Yeah. All right. That's it for today, everyone. If you like this episode, enjoy some of the discussion about, I don't know. I didn't write this in. Socks. We encourage you to go listen to wearables. Yeah, there you go. Try listening to episode 201, wrist-mounted wearables for human computer interaction. See what Meta's doing over there. Comment wherever you're listening with what you think of the story this week. You enjoy me messing it up? I don't know. I did. For more in-depth discussion, join us on our Discord community. Visit our official website, sign up for our newsletter, stay up to date with all the latest human factors news. If you like what you hear, you want to support the show, there's 3 ways you can do that right now. 1, leave us a 5-star review. Just stop what you're doing. Go leave us a review. Make it good. All that stuff. Tell your friends about us. That is the second way that you can do it. Word of mouth really helps us grow. Say, hey, this Nick guy is like messing up all over the place. It's like going to NASCAR for crashes. You should check it out. Or 3, if you are financially able and can look past my faults, maybe support us on Patreon. You get access to Human Factors Minute. As always, links to all of our socials and our website are in the description of this episode. Mr. Barry Kirby, thank you for being on the show today and carrying me once again. Where can our listeners go and find you if they want to talk about where they can put their socks?
If you want to go and talk about socks, you can find me on Twitter and across social media at Baz_K. Or if you want to hear some of the interviews we've been doing over on 1202 The Human Factors podcast, then find it at 1202podcast.com.
As for me, I've been your host, Nick Roome. You can find me on Discord and across social media at Nick_Roome. Thanks again for tuning in to Human Factors Cast. Until next time, it depends. I wasn't sure I was going to go with the where you put your socks thing, but I'm glad I did.
Fair play. Oh, we made it. That was good. And actually, I think the quality was good. It sort of held up all the way through.
That's great.
Excellent work.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. Yeah. The only things are like my silly little mistakes of leaving myself on mute, and I think that's a processing power locally to my computer because funny story-ish, my processor fan on my computer is making a lot of noise, and
right,
that's not great for audio podcasting. And so I put a piece of tape in there to stop it from going. It's also stopping it from cooling down my processor.
Yeah, I was going to say that there's the cause and effect there.
Yeah, so I think that's what's going on. Because yeah, I need a better computer is ultimately what that boils down to. But yeah, anyway.
What you need is a mixer desk so you can do your mute from here, not on the PC.
Yeah, see, I used to think, and this is a funny story that I tell in the post show, because this is for our patrons and everybody listening now. So I used to think that this would turn off my mic. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. I can tell you.
It doesn't turn off my mic.
What did you switch then?
The on-off button.
Oh,
on my mic.
The on-off button on your mic would switch your mic on and off.
You would think that, right?
Hell,
no,
yeah,
what it does, what it's supposed to do, I guess, theoretically, is it's supposed to kill the monitoring that comes out of my ears. So when I turn this on and off, I'm a little bit more quiet, I guess, is how I can best describe it. But you can hear me.
Yeah.
And so, what's really funny is that let's just say there was one time that I was doing a job interview, and
I just realized where this is going to go.
Okay, let's just say there was one time I was doing a job interview, and there's a lot of background noise, and I did this. This is what I did. Hey, could you keep it down? I'm on an interview here. And then I hear what on the interview line. I'm like, well, oh, sorry, I was just having some trouble. I'm having some trouble with Zoom. I don't know what's going on.
Brilliant.
Yes, that was embarrassing. That's how I found out.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So
I'll do that.
That was a great time to learn that lesson.
At least you didn't stand up thinking you switch your camera off and you were just wearing your pants.
Oh yeah. That's always fun. Thankfully that was a long time ago. I found out a long time ago that happened. It saved me many embarrassing moments. So now I always use the mute button. And let me see here, because the hotkey is M.
Mm-hmm.
So I could just do that because.
Oh yeah,
I can just do that. Yeah, I know. I was cutting in and out because I was spamming the M button to see how that came through.
Yeah, that's really childish. This thing.
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't put mute as a hotkey on my Stream Deck. I thought I had.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's a bit. I haven't fallen out with my Stream Deck, but I just haven't fallen back into it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it takes a lot of setting up, and then I'm not liking my whole configuration at the moment. My desk's in the wrong place, so my mixing desk, because I'm running 2 laptops at the moment because the 2 jobs I'm doing. They're obviously technically the most important thing, so I'm told. So I've got them working for day-to-day stuff. But then when I'm doing podcast stuff, I want my desk over here so I can have access to, faders, mute buttons, all that sort of stuff on my left hand, and to be able to control stuff on the screens with my mouse and stuff. But I've got it all over here, and it's just wrong. I thought I'd get used to it, and it's just. So I'm debating whether I need to reorganize the entire cabin and have a work desk and a broadcast desk.
Ooh, like a studio?
Yeah, sort of mini studio-esque thing. Because if I was to do that, I'd actually make this a standing desk, not a sit-down one. Which I think I would feel better doing it standing, so to speak. We're better doing it standing up, so to speak.
The podcast standing up?
Yes.
Oh, interesting. You'd then make me want to stand up.
Well, if needs must.
As long as it looks the same. As long as it looks the same, and I can't tell you're standing up. I'm okay.
I was going to say, because the whole thing would rise. So, you from camera angle, because I interviewed a chap ages ago, and he did it from a standing desk. He says he did all of his Zooms, all of his stuff from a standing desk because he felt it made him present better and all this sort of stuff. So I'm like, I might try that. But I would need to convert, because I've got these desks, they're specific sizes for this room that I'm in. So I'll need to get, rather than getting a standing desk, I'd have to work out a way of converting these ones. But it's all possible. But that's a future problem, not one for right now. So.
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to do this. Hold on. I'm going to do this. Let's see here. Just stick with me for a second. I'm going to do something, and I'll explain what I'm doing. Okay. You'll probably be able to tell exactly what I'm doing.
I'm intrigued. So.
All right, here we go. This week on the show, we're going to be talking about how smart textiles can sense how their users are moving. We're also answering some questions from the community about red flags and job descriptions, which part of human factors and UX we're bad at, and difficulties recruiting candidates for user interviews. But first... All right.
Well done. You got that now.
Yeah. Oh, wait. Hang on. I got one more. Hang on.
You do the one further down.
Yep. Hold on. Yeah, I wrote down 3 notes. Transition to news. So it's well, that sounds exciting. I can't wait to hear it. No, wait. Hang on. You were talking about I forgot exactly what I said there. I know I have it on my recording. Now I got to go back and listen to my recording. It's probably around there.
I've closed my notes now as well.
Yeah, hold on. Nope, that was me talking about how I feel about this story. Let's see here. Where is it? Sorry, I'll throw on the music here for a second. I'm just doing some cleanup. I'll polish it. Why not? We're here. Where is it?
Yeah, you need to do that.
Let's see. There it is. Hang on. What did I say? Oh, hang on. Here it is. All right. All right. Yeah. All right. Yes, we certainly will let people know what they think. Anyway, we're here for the news, so let's go ahead and get into it.
Do that again, because it was very laggy, but the audio quality came over really rubbish.
No. Okay.
Right, so.
That's right. We'll let people know what they think. Wait, what the? Hang on. What did I? Yes, we'll let people know what they think for sure. But you're all here for the news, so let's get into it. No, still no. Audio quality's bad. What is going on? Jeez. All right.
I don't know. You're just when you need it. All the rates have gone up.
Yeah. Still bad.
I see. No, you're fine now. Do it now. Okay. Do it.
All right. Yes, we'll let everybody know for sure. But you're all here for the news, so let's get into it. All right. How was that? Was that good? Good. Wow. Excellent. All right, and then my only other note is, my only other note is cutting out the first part of that part. The first part of that part. The first part of the news part. Anyway, I'll figure it out. I'll have to clip this.
Yeah, you're going bad again. It seems to have held up all the way through the thingy, what should we call it? Show. That's what we're doing. That thing. And now it's gone all broke again.
It's nearing the 4 o'clock hour. I think that's why. I think there's probably a lot of people on the freeway stressing that. Let's see here. I am gonna try to clip this stuff on Twitch because I might be able to download it later.
Cool. Where am I at?
I can't tell which one's you talking and which one's the recording talking. That's bad. Wow. All right. Patch it. Note that, I guess. Patch it. That's one patch anyway. I'll still have to go back and search for the other patch. I've got like 3 berries going.
Oh, well, I mean, what more can you possibly want? I've just been having a look at which networks I can use. I think I can stream onto YouTube.
Sorry. You said, what else more could you want? And then another berry goes.
Surround sound Barry. I mean, what more? That's everybody.
It's like having a conversation with 2 berries right now.
Well, the only thing that makes that better is to bring a third one in.
Yeah.
Done.
Well, that sure was a fun episode. I'm always pleasantly surprised when we turn something like that into a wonderful discussion because, as I was mentioning in my initial reactions, it's one of those things where I was going back and forth going, oh, yeah, but then, oh, yeah, no, that's great, right? And so I think we ended on that's great.
It's the ones you don't necessarily expect, I think.
It always is.
Because it's the ones that you think are going to be really great, and then you end up going, oh, that wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be. I've certainly done a couple of interviews like that, which I think I mentioned before anyway, but where you set yourself up and you think this is going to be a fantastic interview, and you're like, oh, it was all right. Or maybe it just didn't last as long as you expected, or you just didn't hit it off in the same ways you thought you were going to, and it's definitely a roll of dice thing.
Speaking of which, did you have the interview yet? A certain other host of a thing.
Oh, not yet. No. In fact, I've sent them an email and they haven't replied yet because I know she's out of country at the moment, or has been.
Okay.
So, but I have made contact, and yes, hopefully that'll be happening fairly soon. I've kind of got, how many episodes have I got? Because I'm more prepared than I ever have been. Because how many have I got lined up now? Where's my list? So I've got that 1, 2, 3. So I've got a month and a half of content there, and I've got at least another 2 lined up to record shortly. Then there's that one we've been talking about. So that's another 3 in the bag to get sorted out. I can move that one. Done. I was wondering, is there something that I'm doing? I could be interfering with your production, could I? No,
What's that?
I doubt. I'm wondering if there's, because we're assuming it's all you that's causing the problems, but I'm wondering whether I might be doing something, because it's still two upload feeds, but then I think everybody who's observed my audio has not seen any problems, have they? I just wonder whether there might be a loading issue going to restream. I don't think there is. I think it's on you.
I'm wondering what server we're connected to. That might have something to do with it. If we're connected to a server that's closer to you.
Possibly.
But I think it's automatic. And
I think it's automatic, and you would. There's no way of telling, is there?
Not live. I've tried to mess with the settings. Yeah, unless I tell it do exactly this server. But I on playback I hear it on my end, so it's definitely me.
Yeah. That's fair enough. I'm not getting the blame. No, I've got to
trying to share the blame there.
No, service we provide. Yeah, I'm hoping for because I should have coming up to interview the current president of the CIHF and the most recent past president of the CIHF. And I've got another past president of the CIHF already locked and loaded.
Wow.
There's a lot of presidential action going on.
Is this peeling back the curtain too much? Can I ask you how you recruit, or how you find people? Is it mostly just that question that you ask at the end? Who else might be good for this show?
No, I don't use that at all. It's terrible. And in fact, I think I might end up changing that last question because I think some people feel a bit uncomfortable by it because they think they're naming people. Generally, it's three-pronged. One is people I know, and I'm like, I'm going to crowbar you into this because why not? People I either see on socials, things like that, doing interesting things, or people I've heard of, and then I'll reach out to them on socials and things like that. And then the third one is a bit of either recommendations or just the equivalent of cold calling. So when I did the NASA interview, for example, that I tried to email different bits of NASA to get this done, and it always came back with no, not happening. And then I found a particular email of a particular person involved in a particular part of it, and said, "Can I do that?" And they came like, "Yeah, that sounds brilliant." And I'm like, "Oh, now I'm scared." And similarly with UK Space Agency, because I did the same with the UK Space Agency and interviewed them. And it happened to be that one of their outreach managers was also a human factors practitioner who worked at ESA and things like that, the European Space Agency. And that was one of the first mobile interviews I ever did, where I took my kit to the UK Space Agency, which was very exciting. So yeah, generally I just steal and borrow people. So people I find interesting, and I'm getting more. Because I still, again, we talked about the show about this idea of imposter syndrome. I still sort of go to people and sort of say, "Would you come and be interviewed?" Thinking why would they possibly want to be interviewed by me? But quite a few people are very open to do so, which is cool.
Yeah, I've thought about reaching out to other folks in other folks who have similar podcasts in different domains.
Mm-hmm.
Right, I don't know, surface transportation or something like that, to talk about something very similar to human factors, maybe not exactly human factors, but I always thought it would be interesting to kind of reach out to them and say, "Hey, understand that you have a podcast, would love to chat at some point," and then have that be a gateway for, "Hey, if you ever want to be on and you'll be a panelist."
But again, that's exactly how we met. Effectively, you were pushing out more stuff on Twitch and stuff like that at the time, and I was like, they're doing stuff, and so I was just literally weirdly laid in bed going, "No, I'll just listen into what," because you were doing the Monday night thing, and I was like, "Oh, that was quite cool." And listening because you were broadcasting so late then, and I started listening to the post show with you and Blake, and then that first time, and then Blake was like, "Oh, Mr. Barry Kirby's on." I was like, "That sounds very formal. That's scary." And the fact that that you'd heard of me as well was like, whoa, this is scary. I've hit the big time. But yeah, so I had that very much the same thing. Again, reaching out to hopefully who's going to be a special guest coming up. I was like, I didn't want to for ages because I'm like, no, they are way better than I am at doing what I'm doing, and I don't want them to see what I do and go, oh, I was on this podcast. It was trying to be so good, but it's really rubbish.
Do we have any insight on what their numbers
are? I could probably find something. Does YouTube give you? Not YouTube. Apple doesn't give you listener numbers of individual podcasts.
No.
No.
Actually, Podcast Addict does though, but that's only within the Podcast Addict ecosystem. There are the most recent episode on YouTube, 231 views.
They are quite niche. So
yeah,
we, for the same reasons I latched on to them to begin with, because I thought they were more in our domain than they actually are. But then they do diversify some of the talking about what they talk about as well. So I think there'll be interesting things.
So we have a internal document that we use to track others in this space. Some might call it a competitive analysis, but I see it as a target list for friends.
Mm-hmm.
When I say target list, I mean like prospective friends list. Because look, like I don't think of anybody in this space as a competitor. Like, we banter every now and then about our two formats and how we don't want to step on each other's toes or anything like that. But really, like I enjoy seeing other perspectives from this domain. Like there's a million podcasts for things like politics or news in general, or even gaming or music or anything like that. But like the further niche you get down, even psychology has a ton of them. But the further niche within there you go, UX has a good number of them by human factors.
There's not many, and there's not many that I see that actually stay current. So there's a few out there that occasionally post, I think. You've also got more in the US than we've got here in the UK. I think there's less than a handful in the UK. And in fact, I'm struggling to think of another one.
Another what? Human Factors podcast?
Yeah.
So I know of a few, but they don't actually use human factors in their title. I would need to reference my friend making document.
Well, there must be some, because we've been listed by various people as in their top 10s of things, but they haven't been refreshed. I haven't seen. Anything.
So there's like HFIG talks, HFIG talks. I forgot how they pronounce it, but that's the University of Toronto. They do one that's an interview. They haven't posted in a while though. And then there's also what's the other one? There's one out of ASU that's like Action Perception or something like that. It's about sports, but it's a lot of human factors type stuff.
I've just literally done the search in Google for Human Factors podcast, and they've not done this in a while because they've got a new layout where they just give you the list of Human Factors podcasts across the top of the thing. And I was going to say this is through my account. It's bound to pick up, but it obviously picks up mine first, clearly. Then Human Factors. It's clearly a very good list,
Well, I wonder if that's because you are in the UK, or if it just is pulling yours in. Because, so I bet you it's because Human Factors Podcast is in your title. Because we don't have podcast in our title.
Possibly. But
Mind
also,
Machine, that was the other one.
I think it'll just be doing it because I'm logged into my account and therefore it recognizes me.
No, because you're ahead on me too.
Oh, am I? Oh, check me
Yeah.
out. The Human Factors Podcast by SAP. Oh, that's interesting. Let's
What is that?
I don't know.
Military Psychology Podcast is another one that I have my eyes on.
Mm-hmm.
There's who you interviewed him, the scuba diving guy.
Oh yeah. But that's not him.
No, I'm just saying generally he has one too.
Oh
he?
No. I don't think he does.
Oh, I thought he did.
No. I think he does a lot of webinars and stuff like that, and things like that as a podcast. Smart City Podcast. I haven't seen that before. Next Conscious Leader.
Human Plans Podcast.
I've just seen that. Yeah, that's brilliant. I'm in. Next, I'm intrigued.
The Human Factor. That's another one that's on my list too, where they talk about aviation. Although I don't know how recently they've updated. There's a ton of them on that list that just stopped publishing.
Yes.
And that's a shame.
This thing called Human Factors Minute has just come up. Oh, that sounds
really?
like it too. Yeah. Right at the end of the list.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Well,
what does it take you to?
Human Factors Cast private RSS feed, which it won't let me do anything with because it's a private RSS feed. Oh, what's it doing? No, it just puts me into a general search.
I see. Okay. Yeah, that's good that it's coming up in a private RSS feed because if it wasn't, then I'd be quite concerned.
No, that's it. Yes, so
yeah, that's I there were a bunch of search terms that I used to use, like aviation human factors, maritime human factors, basically all the big domains, healthcare human factors, to look for some of these friends. And I feel like I did ultimately come up with a good list. I need to find that list. Hey, Welt Magazine has not published their 2022 Best Human Factors podcasts yet. Get on it, Welp.
I was going to say, yeah, well, the I haven't been on there for really a while. Yes, because you can tell I did this a while ago because my artwork's not up to date. But clearly, I mean, I was at the top, so that's all fine.
Really,
it does make you wonder because again, their numbers were all wrong. You know, I only had 20 episodes apparently, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure I got a lot more than that.
Oh, Stephen Fairclough. He was the one at Neuroergonomics conference that Lewis wanted us to sync up with. Yeah, he's the other one. Right. Another podcaster in the UK. That might be another good connection.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he was another one. Deepwater Subsea podcast, the #1 podcast for oil and gas professionals. Should we change ours to the #1 podcast for human factors professionals? Because then they would go to ours over yours. I don't know.
Or you could just produce better content and.
We could do that. We could do that. That's always an opportunity.
Too much effort there. No, but it's interesting because I mean, because your listing figures are way more than mine, and you also cover a much broader range of platforms as well because of all the stuff you do. So it'd be interesting to see where and how and why they're ranking what they're ranking.
I don't think they're ranked. I think they just searched human factors.
Yeah, yes,
This is
right.
and just plugged them in as they found them.
So
That's my suspicion, but anyway. Yeah,
I have just found the best human factor psychology podcast of 2022. Oh, this is a stupid list. No, we don't like it. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't have us on it. Is that?
Oh, it has you on it.
Oh,
It doesn't have me on it. It's really not a very good list.
Oh, is it the Player FM one? Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I'm on Player FM. I must be on Player FM. Normally get distributed.
I have alerts to say like best podcasts and human factors and 1202 to pop up, which is
cool.
I just haven't seen them in a while.
Well, clearly people need to be to rate stuff. So, oh, I didn't realize they did a podcast. Oh, IHF.
Hey, I know we're at time. I have one more question for you. There's an
wow,
article on Owl Tale about the best 1202 Human Factors podcast episodes. You tell me if this list tracks. Never mind. They say this data isn't working. But wait. Is this? I think this is just in order that it was released. Okay, yeah, so the data isn't working. Never mind. All right, that was it. Anyway, I think we're going to get out of here. And again, we're not going to be out next week. We are going to be out next week. We'll have, the live part of it go out normal time, 2 Pacific, 10 UK. And well, it'll be a great discussion. I think it'll be I'm looking forward to everybody experiencing that talk because it's really good. Also, shoot, I meant to mention this on the show. We got some coverage coming up of the healthcare symposium that is dropping next week. So stay tuned for that. Anyway, that's it for today. Take care of your loved ones. Hug them. And we'll see you on the 4th. And you'll see me next week. All right.
Awesome. Have a good one.
Bye, everybody. Bye.
Bye.